I'm 24, female, and currently 24 weeks pregnant with a baby girl. My partner, also 24, male, and I are excited, even though the pregnancy was a surprise. We plan to name our baby after my mom, who passed away when I was young. Most of my family and friends have been very supportive, but my aunt, 54, female, and cousin, 31, female, are causing problems. My cousin has been struggling with infertility for about 5 years. She had a miscarriage, and 2 years ago, doctors told her she had a low number of healthy eggs. After 2 rounds of IVF, she got pregnant in late 2022. Sadly, she had complications during pregnancy, and her baby passed away shortly after birth. Since then, my cousin has been dealing with severe depression but refuses to seek therapy, even though we think it would help her. When I found out I was pregnant, I told my cousin individually, hoping to give her space to process it. She didn't take the news well. She was distant and cold when I saw her, but a week later, she asked to meet one-on-one. We talked, and she eventually asked me if I would let her adopt my baby to raise as her own. I refused, saying that my partner and I want to raise our baby ourselves. She got very upset, called me names, and said we didn't deserve our baby because we aren't married yet, though we are engaged. She claimed she and her husband could give my baby a better life. Then she kicked me out of her house. I understand she's going through a lot, and I want to be supportive, but her request was overwhelming, and I'm struggling to balance my relationships with her and my family while preparing for my own baby. How can I manage this situation? After I refused my cousin's request to adopt my baby, she and my aunt started texting and calling me, trying to convince me to change my mind. My aunt argued that I should give my baby to her daughter, saying I'd still get to see her since she'd be in the family, and that I could have more kids later because I'm still young. She also implied that, based on raising me, I wasn't ready for motherhood, and pressured me with guilt. She even gave my number to other relatives and her church friends, who started messaging me, urging me to be more understanding of my cousin's situation. Some of my relatives were calmer, but her church friends said awful things about me, so I blocked them. I've been trying to avoid my aunt and cousin as much as possible, but it's hard. My aunt has been controlling my life and decisions for years since she's been a motherly figure to me. Now, I've heard that my cousin is telling people she'll soon have a baby, and they all believe I'll change my mind once I face the challenges of being a parent. It's overwhelming and frightening. If you have any advice on handling this or just ways to de-stress, I'd really appreciate it. My partner and I have quietly moved, and only a few people know our new address. My aunt and cousin know we moved, but don't know where. We also recently got married in a small private ceremony and may have a larger wedding next year. I'm unsure what the situation with my cousin will be like by then, or if they'll be invited. Thankfully, my partner's family has been supportive throughout this difficult time. I feel more confident and supported thanks to my partner's family. We've also taken extra precautions for the birth and our security. The baby is healthy, and we're really excited to meet her. We already love her and are ready to protect her. Unfortunately, my cousin is still obsessed with having a baby and seems to believe it will fix her life. I've heard through gossip that she's been behaving inappropriately online. She's been joining pregnancy and baby-related groups, messaging vulnerable people who've shared their struggles, and offering to adopt their babies. She even harassed a young widow about adopting her child, which led to her being banned from several groups. She's also been more active on social media, sharing her fertility struggles and thinking about trying IVF again. I found out she's waiting for my baby to be born and wants to reconnect with me like before I was pregnant. I blocked her on most platforms, and she hasn't tried to contact me directly yet. My aunt, however, is still angry and has been badmouthing me to family and her church friends. I occasionally get hostile texts, voicemails, and calls from people she's turned against me, but since I've moved and no longer go to church, there's been no physical confrontation. My aunt has also been pressing my father for information about me, but he has promised to keep my new address and other details private, especially from my aunt and cousin. Out of the two, my aunt has been more aggressive. The day before I moved, she showed up at my apartment and waited for me in the parking lot after work. I thought she would yell at me, but instead, she asked to catch up at a cafe near the church. This whole situation is stressful, but I'm doing my best to protect my family and focus on my baby. I could tell my aunt's friendliness was fake, and the situation made me uncomfortable, so I made excuses and refused to meet her. She then started gaslighting me, arguing about everything that had happened. She told me to wait until the baby was born, saying I'd give in to the stress of parenting. She made hurtful comments about me and my partner, saying our baby deserved to be raised in a godly home with two Christian parents. She's never liked my partner because he's not Christian, and she even made some anti-Semitic comments about him. She claimed that my baby would be confused by our different religious beliefs and wouldn't get enough attention because both my partner and I have full-time jobs. She believes a child needs to be raised in a religious household with a stay-at-home mother and a strong father to avoid going down a moral spiral. She thinks only my cousin, who stays at home, and her husband can provide this environment. Thankfully, my neighbor showed up during this confrontation, which helped cool things down. I firmly told my aunt to leave and even complained to the building manager. Afterward, I hid with a friend in another complex until my partner came to pick me up. My aunt waited in the parking lot for a while, but eventually left after about 30 minutes. We recorded the incident and have taken extra precautions. We've also warned her about legal action if things escalate, though we don't want to provoke her further. That incident has been stressful, and I've been avoiding any place where my aunt or cousin might be. I've skipped 2 family events because I knew they would be there. Although I feel more secure after moving and getting married, I'm still cautious and hope things will settle down after my baby is born. I plan to update again after the baby is born, if nothing major happens, and when it feels safe. Thank you all for your support, it means a lot. We also reached out to the local church leader about my aunt and cousin, since they are both active members. At first, he dismissed our concerns as a family conflict and suggested counseling. We explained that my cousin is struggling with trauma after losing her baby and has false hopes of adopting mine, which we will raise in a loving home. We also told the church leader that my aunt was encouraging my cousin's hopes and harassing me, which has caused me a lot of stress. He said he understood my side and was aware of what my cousin had been going through with her struggles to have children. He said he would talk to my aunt and cousin to get their perspective. When I spoke with him again today, he said that my aunt and cousin were concerned because I had stopped communicating with them, especially after moving. I explained that their behavior about my baby is why I cut off contact. When I asked what they said, he told me that my cousin had spoken with a church therapist and was now considering adoption to start a family, as her IVF treatments were unlikely to work due to her condition. I made it clear to him that I am not giving up my baby, despite what my cousin may think. He said he understood but then began asking for personal details about how I'm doing and tried to arrange a meeting between me, my aunt, and my cousin, offering to refer us to services. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that right now. He then asked me to at least call my cousin, and mentioned that he would meet with my aunt on Sunday since I didn't want to do it alone. Our call ended after that. I'll provide an update on what happens in the coming days, either by editing this post or leaving a comment. Edit, I'm not happy with his response. It feels like he's pressuring me to reconnect with my aunt and cousin, even though he says he understands my concerns. I think he's being dismissive and trying to force a resolution. My partner and I had hoped reaching out to him would help, but I'm not sure it will. Since the church leader has influence and authority over my aunt and cousin, I decided to wait for our next phone call to see if I could get him to care more. Just to clarify, I haven't shared any personal information with him, and I have no plans for an in-person meeting with my aunt or cousin. We're also in contact with legal help, and we don't live in Utah. Update, we spoke with the bishop again. He said there's not much he can do to resolve the situation between me and my aunt/cousin, other than referring us to counseling. When I asked if he had met with my aunt, he said he did, but their conversation mainly focused on helping my cousin heal. He mentioned that my cousin is grieving the loss of communication with me and my sister, who hasn't been in touch with her much either. I explained to him that my cousin is trying to take my baby to replace hers and that their behavior is putting my family's safety and well-being at risk. He seemed to lose interest in the conversation and ended by saying I should do what's best for my family but also consider the grief my cousin is going through. He suggested we contact family counseling services for further help. After that, my partner and I sent him an email, copying our lawyer to officially close communication with him. I also decided to unblock my cousin and send her a message. I told her that my partner and I are keeping our baby and that it's not up for discussion. I encouraged her to seek proper therapy if she hasn't already and let her know that I'm not comfortable with her, her husband, or my aunt being involved in my child's life. She hasn't responded yet, but regardless of her response, our relationship will not return to what it was, and she will not be a part of my child's life.